Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the Magic Arena Run. Today we are going to be taking a look at near the closing of midweek Magic because of several technical issues. There was a period in time where no one could get a game going for several hours, and it looks like there's going to be another period of maintenance coming soon. So might want to hold on to your pants. It's a good thing that the format is Historic Pauper, so pretty much any investment you make is pretty much going to be all in commons, not exactly a big loss. I tried looking at basic. The one that came to my attention was was ninjas. I took a look at the blue ones. I took a look at the black ones. I figured I'm probably gonna just stick to mono blue ninjas at this rate. And this is the deck list I came up with. I made a few. There are a few experimental changes here. If they don't pan out, I'll probably revert back to the regular one. But who are the stars of this show? Well, namely Ninja of Deep Hours. So, if you're not familiar with the ninjutsu mechanic, basically it's very similar to swinging with a rogue and putting Zarat-san into play. So here you swing with any creature, thank goodness. And if it's unblocked, you can return it to your hand, pay the requisite mana, and you get to put this ninja into the battlefield tapped and attacking. And usually they have, when you deal combat damage to a player's effects. So primarily the one that we're all familiar with is Ninja of the Deep Hours, but there's also this one from Modern Horizons. It's Moonblade Shinobi. So this is actually one of the better ones in the sense that it puts more bodies on the board and it actually gives us more fodder to ninjutsu with if we need to. Now, but how do we get the early ninjutsu? Well, our primary early ninjutsu plan is Fairy Miscreant and Fairy Duelist, so we have a bit of a fairy package here. I did also try the there's the Slither one. Then hold on, I also did run Slither Blade Naga Rogue. This one was the original, but it is cheaper, but there is the issue where there are a lot of times when I want to spend mana on something and I need to hold up mana. There's the tension between holding up mana and casting to play this one. It's a good thing most of our stuff is like 1 mana, 2 mana, but for the most part there is that issue. That's why I'm opting to try Fairy Duelist out. It's not quite the best one, but the better one is an uncommon. If this doesn't pan out, probably swap the Slither Blades back in. Also an experiment, we have 4 copies of Frost Trickster. So basically, this is what buys us a lot of times. Also, very nice to bounce back with ninjutsu. Alternately, if you don't want Frost Trickster and you want to hold up mana, basically the same issue. There is Stygian Scion of Stygia. Basically, this is the other version of that. Having flash is actually very nice. But the fact that it doesn't have any evasion makes it hard to replay. So what I usually like to do is Frost Trickster in 1 turn, swing with this one. If it doesn't get blocked, Ninja of Deep Hours. If there's enough mana, if I have enough mana on the board, I recast Frost Trickster, rinse, repeat. Other cards of note: 4 copies of Dive Down because we have a lot of stuff to protect. 3 copies of Bubble Snare as initial removal. Into the Royal if we need something, it needs something more multi-purpose. Our counter spell package: 4 Lofty Denial, a few copies of Spell Pierce. There's a single Quench here. Most likely, this would probably be an Essence. This probably could be an Essence Scatter. On experiment, here would be the single Cartouche of Knowledge. It can easily just be another Quench or another one of our other counter spells, and a single Raven Form. These are basically our experimental cards, and that's pretty much the deck. And it's not too bad for a Pauper deck, I would say. Though there are plenty of close calls, it's still possible to come back from it. Also of note, I'm showing the deck list up here because Mystic Sanctuary is actually banned in real Pauper. You won't see it here. Just add as many copies of Mystic Sanctuary as you feel comfortable with. So we're definitely keeping this one. Turn 1 Miscreant into turn 2 Ninja. Perfect. Now, if our opponent has removal, so I'm really wary of black or red at this point. Okay, that's black. That's something I have to be wary about. And you know what? We're just gonna go for it. This will probably get killed, but it's kind of fine. I'm taking a shot at it. So next turn we probably just play Fairy Miscreant. We have our choice. Oh, we've got plenty of choices in fact. So between Spell Pierce and Dive Down, we can pretty much protect our lot here. And we also got into the Royal, and the Mystic Sanctuary is going to pay off as soon as the moment we counter something necessary. Also, Lofty Denial is our all-rounder here. Boot Nipper. I guess we Lofty Denial this. Now, technically, what we can do is we can just let it resolve into the Royal, but no, we're just gonna counter it now. If our opponent has another burn spell, so be it. Usually they don't. So we're gonna buy back the Lofty Denial. And we're going to just get our Moonblade Shinobi in. Now that said, a board wipe is not completely the end of the world. We have a dive down to save us a bit. Spell Pierce in case. Then take into a pie. I say we Spell Pierce that one. We have another Fairy Miscreant. We can actually just play both and hold up a counter spell. It's smacks of grief, but it is what it is. I got another man plan to go with it. Yes, I do love to draw a card. Oh, I can also actually just cycle it if I need to. But we're gonna hold up stuff. We're basically trying to avoid a mass wipe, I would say. Opponent, I feel bad for our opponent. It looks like our opponent might be one of a newer player. Just some. Yeah, that's about it. Yeah, our opponent's definitely a newer player. They did not compete immediately, so many apologies to our opponent. Our opponent probably did not have that big a card pool. That said, I would caution in playing Pauper, you either want to be real controlling or really fast out of the gate. I actually think there might be enough elves in common. Well, you don't need the to do that in a sense. Go wide. Anyway, we're gonna keep doing this one. We had a very wonderful start. Basically, the perfect start is turn 1 drop, turn 2 Ninja Peep Hours. I know we aren't exactly playing that many 1-drops. Maybe that's a good reason to bring Slitherblade back. But we're definitely keeping this one. It's very slow, but we can end of turn Fairy Duelist into Ninja Deep Hours. And then also on blue. Our opponent might... Okay. Mono blue. We have a Fairy Miscreant, but we probably want to just land a Duelist instead. Our opponent might be a mill deck, which would actually be very bad for us because the only... If it's, say, the Ruin Crab variety, the only creatures that can punch through are the 3-drops. It would be the other ninja, not this one. I just realized that there's a dead person in the back there. Let's see what our opponent could also be sitting on tons and tons of counters, which is very possible. Also, I probably should just change the island here. I do like it, but it's probably massive. It's probably mass mill. I think our opponent might be sitting on cards like Didn't Say Please or Talk. When? Okay, so regular counterspell, I'll take that. So actually, Quench is quite fine, but that means our opponent probably is sitting on something relatively big if they're going to just counter stuff. The other possibility is our opponent's a mill deck. They're just really sitting on a ton of counters. We're gonna play another Fairy Miscreant. Opponent probably counters this or bounces one. Okay, no, they're letting us draw a card. Okay, gives us an Into the Royal. I think our opponent suspects that we do have a Ninja. Fairy Duelist. Let's see if our opponent casts double Fairy Duelist here. Nope, casting only one, which means the other might be a bounce spell. We're gonna go for it. If it's a bounce spell, we might as well get it out of the way. We are giving up a Fairy Miscreant for this, but it's kind of expected. Get our card back. Yes, it's another land. Bubble Snare, probably not. It's usually more useful against the more aggro matchups, the ones that really like to swing face. That said, we now have multiple options here. Like, we can definitely swing with Ninja of Deep Hours, Augury Raven, Foretell, and a Silver Raven. So this is probably the heavier version of. Okay, so I definitely want to bounce the Augury Raven here. We can also play a Miscreant. Yeah, let's play another Miscreant. Yep. All according to plan. So we will bounce the Augury Raven. Let's see how our opponent blocks. Our opponent most likely blocks like that. So we will take out the Fairy Duelist and we will play our own Fairy Duelist. And let's shrink the other one. I think our opponent might be playing mono blue Flyers, which is, yeah, relatively interesting, I would say. At least we're hitting our mana. So I'm gonna actually play Frost Trickster. If our opponent has a counter spell, that's fine. We get to Raven form, I guess. Essence Scatter, sure. Yeah, we're gonna just Raven form here. We can end up giving our opponent a 1/1 bird, but we do have the option of just swinging with these guys and holding back Ninja for next turn. Because next turn, if our opponent just plays a 1-drop, we can Bubble Snare and start drawing cards back. That's kind of our plan there. Opponent is really flooded. Well, so are we. Let's see if our opponent has a nope. Just flooding into another Miscreant. That's not our fort. That's our fort already, so might as well play it. It's not gonna do any good. It's not gonna do any good in our hand. If our opponent decides to cast Essence Scatter for it, so be it. I'm trying to think if we have a version of Bubble Snare that has. There is a Mystic Subdual which kind of does the same thing, but I might actually consider a Mystic Subdual here. Actually, making them lose all abilities is fine. I just like Bubble Snare because it's cheaper, with the option of actually taking a creature out. I did see enough sacrifice decks that maybe it's not such a great idea, but I will take it. I will take it though. So far so good. We're gonna keep going with this one. I guess a side effect of an event as easy as Pauper is that it's very welcoming. but having it in historic really only benefits the players with the deep mana bases. So now we have some. Now this one's a bit of a tight spot here. Having two of these ETB tap means we can't. If I play Fairy Miscreant, I'm praying for a. I'm praying for to draw into a land for Ninja. What I can alternately do is play Island, pass, cycle, see what our opponent does from there. Or I can just play the Lowly Sandbar now. Then next turn we can, depending what our opponent, okay, at least our opponent's in white, so the opponent also has flyers. So our opponent is very likely to play a creature here. So I'm gonna play Fairy Miscreant first and hold up the Spell Pierce. I suspect there are cards like Baffling and that Guiding Voice. Yeah, that's a very good one to Spell Pierce. And I think our opponent might have kept one land there. No, they have another land. So we did draw ourselves another. Also, the nice thing about having the large CMC is that it does make it it does dodge Baffling and other certain cards. It won't dodge. Actually, I'm trying to Heliod's Pilgrim. Opponent going for an enchantment. Let's see if it's an enchantment on their own stuff or an enchantment for our stuff. Okay, it's Sentinel's Eye, so it's on their own stuff. Which is actually quite perfect. So we actually have two options here. I can either go for Miscreant, draw a card, hope for a land, or I can just Frost Trickster now. Okay, yeah, that was a good call. I did not draw another land. Our opponent can easily just say dump the Sentinel's Eyes and other cards here, making this okay. But so far that's the only. Is that it? Because if that's it, I will probably play my Fencing Ace. Okay, that's fine. I get to play the other Frost Trickster. I can force our opponent to trade. And since we have a bit of an air force, I'm actually willing to force the trade. So now the hope is our opponent plays stuff that doesn't give vigilance, so we can dump a Bubble Snare. Either case, I'm probably going to just dump a Bubble Snare on the Heliod's Pilgrim now, so that I don't have to cast a third Frost Trickster. Opponent goes Fairy Guide Mother. Let's see if our opponent has a combat trick. Opponent replays Fairy Guide Mother. Okay. So we do have a Fairy Duelist. First things first, you like enchantments? I'll give you an enchantment. Now I can try to draw a land, or I can anticipate our opponent and play the Fairy Duelist. Yeah, we're gonna just hold on the Fairy Duelist first. And if our opponent goes to take it out, it's actually kind of fine. Having cheap combat tricks like Fairy Duelist actually feels more relevant for me. Opponent does go for an Ardent Veil Tactician. We have yet to hit an actual land here, so that is an issue. But you know what? Another Frost Trickster. Yeah, keeping the team down. So next turn we can, I would really prefer to draw land so I can Bubble Snare, Pacifist, and okay, that's fine. Does our opponent have a 1-drop? Because both of us have been operating on Sentinel's eyes. Okay, so guess not. I love those Sentinel's eyes when they're not really doing anything. Now dive down is kind of useless here, so that's gonna be a miss. We'll probably just play the Fairy Miscreants now. Nope, did not draw a land, but it did draw up a setup for the next turn. Yeah, so actually, yeah, so I take it back. It looks like Bubble Burst is working here. I will gladly keep these. Now there's also the other one that for 1 mana it will tap it, but it will deal damage to equal to the power. I'm more skeptical about that, especially since we're running Frost Trickster. So I don't see the need for that version. Also because if we run into an even more aggro matchup, the power is very relevant there. So that said, this is not keepable. This is sketchy but more keepable. I'll keep this. We will need 3 lands down the line. I might just bin the dive down for the time being. So there are cases where the Mystic Sanctuary is a bit of a dud here. So again, play as many as you feel comfortable with. You don't have to price yourself into playing the whole thing. And I'm running only 2 copies, but even then I'm not too pleased with it. I'm actually gonna hold back because we have a sandbar which we can cycle. I would not. Cloudkin Seer. Opponent draws a card. Okay, we'll cycle now. We might draw into a counter. So opponent draws a card. This is actually. Okay, so this is actually perfect for us. We can kind of hold back for the time being. Our opponent might have a counter, which we can Spell Pierce. Let's see what our opponent... Well, we can't Spell Pierce if our opponent casts another creature, but we do have something for it. So, opponent going for that. We're gonna cast Fairy Duelist. Let's see if our opponent has the... Now, because its blockers have not been declared, our opponent cannot ninjutsu this. It would have been embarrassing if they Spell Pierced or Spell Pierced, but thankfully that did not happen. Also, Sorin's Tur's not the best removal card. And opponent might have a bounce spell. We can't do anything about that one. At least we do get to draw cards. We're not going to play that Miscreant. We kind of want to hold up either Duelist or Into the Royal. If our opponent goes for a big kill spell, we'll be glad to bounce our own Ninja. If our opponent goes for something else on their side, Sorin's Thirst. Opponent might play Cloudkin Seer since they were so willing to play one last time. Yep. They're drawing cards the old-fashioned way. Now our opponent knows we have a Fairy Duelist, so I'm not going to even bother surprising our opponent. We're just going to tap it down. Also, Frost Trickster really is one of the best cards to keep bouncing back and forth. Opponent is going to pass. We're going to play out the Fairy Duelist. If our opponent has removal for... They might have removal even for both, which is, well, kind of fine. We can't exactly do anything about it. Opponent looks like they're awfully flooded. Our opponent could hardcast a Ninja if they want to. Actually, bouncing the Fairy Duelist might be better. We do have another Frost Trickster anyway. I'm assuming our opponent has removal. I'm kind of fine with that. Can't exactly do anything about what our opponent has. Might be Grasp of Darkness. Okay, sure. That's fine. So our opponent's just doing regular draw goal. Falcons here, keep that locked down so I don't have to worry about it ever again. Then we'll see what our... Because our opponent is stacking up a lot of mana. Again, if you have a ninja at this position, I'd hard cap. Oh. Buys back one of their many removal spells. So our opponent is playing removal control. Very solid, I would say. So I'm actually gonna play this out now because no point trying to surprise our opponent here. And it's not expensive enough to go through there. So we will actually swing with the whole team. Play a Frost Trickster. Yeah, keep our opponent tapped down. Let's keep our opponent really busy. We're probably also gonna play the Fairy Miscreant. It might incentivize our opponent to play out as much removal as they have in hand. Because could be another Royal Mage, which would be annoying, but not completely the end of the world. The sequencing would be annoying though. Soren's Thirst actually good. I probably would recommend Moment of Craving instead. Minus 2 is probably better than just 2. Wait, is this any target? No, it's target creature. So you probably want Moment of Craving. That might be an uncommon though, so it's something to keep in mind. Being flooded, not so great. Usually we would still have our card draw, but we didn't exactly draw the rest of our protection. So probably hold up the island just in case. We don't exactly have anything that expensive. When it goes another Soren's Thirst, we can't exactly protect it, so that's fine. We had the full grip of Soren's Thirst at this point. And yeah, it's perfectly fine to attack. So we're kind of trading blows at this rate. Though my real concern is our opponent has a very big spell. At common, yeah, it would usually be a creature spell, which would make Spell Pierce not so great. We do have enough targets for a Spell Pierce, but in this case, it's probably not the perfect one. Let's see if our opponent goes for it. Okay, does he go for it now? Nope, he's smart. He waits for it. This is an instant at least, so our opponent could cast it. Nope, let's see if they wait end of turn. Nope, they did not. So because they had such a glut of mana, they kind of wisely dodged that one. So we're gonna have a hard time racing unless we can draw one of our other creatures, I guess. Royal Mage yet again. Wow, opponent got the triple Royal Mage. Maybe our opponent goes for one Soren's Thirst now. Nope, they still did not. But at least we have a dive down now, so that is better. We still have to kind of keep on swinging. We are gonna lose the race at this rate though. There is an argument for, say, holding back a Duelist, force our opponent to cast their removal. Got an Inheritance. We kind of have to Spell Pierce that one. The nice thing about also one reason not to have Soren's Thirst and have Moment of Craving instead is, well, in this case it didn't matter because our opponent paid. If our opponent opted for something else, yeah, we're really flooding. I don't think we're gonna get out of this. Also, we have to race days. Yeah, we can safely concede here. We simply drew way too many lands. Our opponent can easily catch up at that point. They simply drew a lot of gas, having the Royal Mages count. The game took way too long. Opponent managed to hit all their land drops. Was there any outs for us in that one? Probably if we hit a ninja earlier, maybe. So, but that will probably speak to the side effect of cycling the ATB tap lands like like the Lonely Sandbar and the Mystic Sanctuary. An argument could be said to for say negate. Anyway, we are keeping this one. Miscreant on turn 1 is fine. We need to draw another land, because otherwise Fairy Duelist is actually fine, but we really need to draw another land. The only good news is that we have counters for days. It's gonna be a bit of a delay here. Okay, pass. Well, cast the Duelist now. If our opponent wants to counter it, it's fine. It gets a counter out of the way. Okay, Mystic Sanctuary, no benefit. Gonna swing with both. Opponent is really opting. They're really opting quite a lot here. Now the opt is good in certain decks. Though I would have expected to see a mountain at that point. There is the mono blue deck, but even then, okay, opponent goes Fairy Miscreant. And that's it. We're gonna go for this. Our opponent could have a bounce spell, but that is actually kind of fine. It does leave us shields down a bit, but well, we can kind of use the illusions as shields, but not the perfect use here. If our opponent swings, I will block. Opponent plays Mystic Sanctuary, draws back and gets an opt on top. No, they choose not to, which probably makes sense. They're looking for something very specific that is not an opt. Opponent foretells. Opponent could block Miscreant with Miscreant, which is fine by me. They could block the Shinobi, which is also fine. I'm actually okay with that. I'm not gonna sneak in the Duelist that way. The Raven form is mainly there for larger matchups, but haven't quite had it yet. So we're definitely gonna Spell Pierce that. Let's keep our opponent on the ropes. The last thing we want them to do is draw more cards. Muldrifter, Lofty Denials. They might have their own spell here. Oh no, they did not. And with that, they concede. If you're gonna be playing mono blue, you really want to have a lot of backup. It looks like the mono blue value creature plan, which looks very good, but it's awfully vulnerable. Well, I would probably be singing a different tune. Okay, let's say I did not have the counters in hand. I would have been able to lock it down with a Frost Trickster. And I would have forced our opponent to drop even more creatures. Which would be fine by us, because generally for opponents mono blue, you want them to be spending their mana on their turn. So we actually did quite a few games. We'll probably do just one more. But I'm liking the performance of this one. I might do a mono black version, but the thing is, the payoffs for mono black and common, one just makes your opponent discard cards, one exiles cards. It's not the greatest. This one is very sketchy. We need to hit another land, or else we're doing absolutely nothing. But you know what? It's last match. Let's go for it. If we lose this way, we lose this way. At least I would have ingrained in your minds that this is a trick. Now, no point blocking that one. Well, we did hit our third mana. So we can hold up into the Royal. Opponent's playing Goblins, so they're really aggressive. That's kind of where I want to dive down and other stuff. If our opponent plays Goblin Instigator, no point bouncing that. I might bounce the Javelineer instead. Or I could actually just bounce the token, get take out half a card's worth of value. Not great. Hobgoblin Captain. Oh, that's fine. We're definitely bouncing that. And it's actually nice to play the ninjas now, especially since there's something for us to look forward to. Opponent might be forced to blow out the Moonblade Shinobi, which is fine because we have another one. So I'm expecting Captain into Shock, I guess. In which case we should know. I'd prefer to just play Frost Trickster. I definitely don't want to sack the Illusion token, just Hobgoblin Captain. Swing. No blocks. Opponent shocks it. That's expected. Go to blocks. Now we give up the token because we have protection. Our opponent might get the super strong start, but at least the pack tactics here is only first strike, which not too relevant for us. So we are gonna take 6. Alternately, we could just block with the token. Yeah, we'll just block with the token. Let's see if our opponent does anything. I'm probably not gonna bother protect Rimrock Knight. Okay, so he's just pumping. Rimrock Knight. Okay, since our opponent went for that, we can safely trade that off. And you know what? We can bubble snare this Javelineer now. Hold back on the Frost Trickster since our opponent's probably about to dump. Actually, the Rimrock Knights are irrelevant here because they can't block. We might Frost Trickster one anyway just to not get killed out of the blue. Yeah, opponent's just dumping them Rimrock Knights. Is their last card a Tin Street Cadet? Okay. So our opponent can block with this. I'm actually gonna swing with everything. I want our opponent to attack with their Rimrock Knight. Okay, they're. So our opponent's probably gonna move one over somewhere. Okay, that's fine. And I think that's kind of it. Yeah, there we go. We managed to out-aggro our opponent. Moonblade Shinobi is probably going to be the next big hit for Pauper, at least here in Historic. Anyway, that's going to be it for this episode of the Magic Arena Run. If you like what you saw, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, turn on notifications and whatnot. I do hope you managed to enjoy this this taste of midweek Magic. Basically, if especially for those who are starting out, commons are a lot easier to come by. I will admit that it's a bit hard. It's a bit hard to come through a lot of the commons if you're starting out new. So do take a look. There are plenty of alternatives for certain cards here. So check out your standard pals for the most part. Anyway, that's gonna be it for this show. Thank you very much for watching. I hope to see you guys again next time. Take care. God bless. Stay safe wherever you are. Have a great week, everyone. Take care.